all know, I think, each other here. So we are just going to have a short presentation, or maybe not so short. I'm positive that, yeah, Julio and Evelyn, they wanted to attend anyway. So about FileMaker hosting and the way we do it. So this is a sponsored sponsor vendor session. So for once, we're not being, we are going to show what we do. Among you, how many are consultants? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how many are end users? Only you, I think. Okay, so that's good because we are going to have a short explanation about the containerized Docker and the advantages of that architecture over VMs. But we will go. That's quite similar to what we presented a year ago. I don't know if you were there, but then we will switch to our partner programs because I know so many. I mean, at least many people here are interested. You have some customers that you're doing hosting for, and we have partner programs for that. So, and then, I don't know if everyone knows Romain. Romain is the brain behind FMcloud.fm. What are containers? This is your part. I don't really know. So.
So yes, do you know already what is a container? How it's working? Oh, yeah. How containers are working and what's exactly? A bit. Okay. So, well, this is a short explanation. A container at a low level is just a set of processes that are isolated from the rest of the system. So basically, when you run a Docker container, you only run a process, an application, but on the main OS, on the main host, and it just don't is just not aware of what's in the system. It just runs inside a set of folders and files, and it don't have access to the rest of the system. So it's just like you have virtual machines which are running their own OS. There's no OS in a Docker container. There's just a process which is running. So as I said, it's not a virtual machine. There's no guest OS. It's running on Linux. It's Linux only. You can run Docker inside Windows or a Mac, but internally it will run inside a virtual machine. So you just deploy a Linux virtual machine on your OS, and then it runs Docker inside of it. So you can run inside a virtual host. So yes, you can even run your Docker inside a virtual machine. It's isolated from the environment. And you can also run containers inside containers. So you can, not unlike virtual machines where when you run a virtual machine, then you can create virtual machine inside those virtual machines. In Docker, you can spin up new containers inside containers. And of course, there's no graphical UI because it's only command line tools. So, difference with a virtual machine. In a virtual machine, you have a hardware level process isolation. So it means that in some part of the system, there's a new system which is running and totally isolated from the rest of the machine. So there's a full OS. That means that if you run a virtual machine on Windows, then you have your main OS which is installed. Then you install another Windows, so it takes a lot of space. Okay, it takes some time to boot because it's a full OS which needs to start everything. As I said, it's pretty heavy. And yes, creating and booting a VM takes a long time because yes, it's a whole OS which is spinning, and of course that leads to more resource usage. On the container side, has its OS level isolation, so the process is run and it says, okay, you just have access to this small part of the system. The containers share the same OS because they are using the main component of the host where it's running. It takes seconds to boot because actually there's no boot. It's just a process which is start. So if you just open, run the command, it's instant. It's very lightweight because there's not all the things you need to install aside. And a container is created in a second because a container is just an image, so basically a set of files, and you run the process and you're up. So there's no installation. There's nothing. Just run the process. And so there's less resource usage because there's not all the unnecessary things to run. So here is a small graphic which shows you how the things are working on virtual machine and containers. So for the virtual machine, you have your server. There's no your server hardware. Then you have your host OS, Windows, Linux, Mac OS. Anyway, there's an hypervisor which is managing all the virtual environments, and then you have your virtual machine. So you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 virtual machines on the same OS, and each time you have your guest OS which is installed. You have all the libraries which are installed, and then you are running your app. So that's a lots of stack before you have your app running. In the containers, so you have your server hardware as well. You have your host OS, but then you have your images. There's no more guest OS here, and it's sharing also your libraries, your installation. For instance, for your FileMaker server, if you have on the virtual machine, you want to run 2 FileMaker server, which is like FileMaker 2023, then you will have your OS which is installed, and then you will install here same machine. You will have 2 times your FileMaker server which is installed. Yes?
If FileMaker would have a Linux-based client, you could use Docker to open up local
Yeah.
21
Yeah.
or so.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the point. Here, if you have, I would just. Time here, you have your 20.2 and if you have a 19.4, which will be another install. On Docker, the interesting thing is that you have an image. So that basically you create a Docker image where you install your FileMaker. So it's just a set of files which are stored somewhere. And when you spin up your server, it's reusing time. So you will just some configuration file somewhere and have different configuration for your 2 servers. But FileMaker is only installed once. That's just the image, and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't copy the image for each time you want to run your container. So it saves a lot of space because FileMaker server, just the installation, is like 2 or 3 gigabytes. So that means that on your server, you only have 1 time FileMaker which is installed, and you can run multiple servers. And here you have the Docker management system, which is creating the kind of virtual networks, spinning the data volumes where you put your database, your configuration file, etc. And it's pretty, it's really great because if you want to upgrade your 19.4 server here, you have your configuration file. You just say, okay, now don't use this image, use this image. Just the time it takes is just stop FileMaker server. That's the longest part of the process. You stop FileMaker server and then it it starts a new container using the new image and you're upgraded. There's no installation and it takes just, well, less than 1 minute because it's just the time FileMaker takes to stop, close properly your file and stop. So that's the thing. It's a game changer because it shares the images. You can install multiple servers on the same machine. There's no more update. You never update a container. You update the image. Well, you create a new image, you pull the new image, and then you say, okay, stop the container, use the new image, and you're upgraded.
By the way, it also goes for, you can switch image at any time, so, which means if you need to upgrade your server, it takes less than a minute to upgrade, but just in case you would find a problem with your FileMaker solution, you just want to downgrade, good luck to do this with a virtual machine. Here it's the same click, just switch again back to the, so there's no risk upgrading. So people now, our customers, they really want the new version. Before they were willing to wait until they were very sure. Now the day it's out, they want to try it. And in case there is a problem, there isn't actually. For the latest release of Claris are good, but if they want to downgrade, that's also possible.
And yes, and so also there's a better performance because there's no virtualization which is involved, and the virtualization use resources. It uses CPU because you have to run the OS, you have to run the virtualization things that just had some overhead. And well, yeah, it's the new way to deploy the containers, the FileMaker, and it reduces your cost because you save your resource, so you save also your cost and your time.
What's the next slide?
No,
Yeah.
this is our architecture, how we are managing everything on this. We are using infrastructure as code, so it means that when we want to spin up a server, we just create a set of files in a Git repository, and then we have runners, which are in which data center we wanted to deploy the server, and it just install the SSL certificate. And then also has everything is working on Docker and for us to just deploy a new server in any region and any data center provider. We can go to AWS, we can go to OVH, Leaseway, any data center in the world that can provide a server, even virtual machine, if there's no dedicated host right there. So it's provider deploy on-premise with this.
Which we do, we'll talk about partnerships later on. I mentioned some things we do with universities that's taking advantage of that.
So of course, because we have all of this, we also have monitoring system. So we know in real time we can get all the logs from all the servers. We have all the statistic usage. So if someone asks us, well, there's something going wrong, we can go there and go to the server and see exactly if there's something which is not running. But we also have alerts, so if something happens, we usually we are already aware, and we can very quickly.
The one thing to remember about this slide is architecture as code, which means we don't manipulate files, copy things like that. We run programs for everything, like it's running a script somewhere, and all the architecture is really a file, a text file, or I mean, that we just run, and that makes the whole difference.
Okay, so this is just a view of what's a host or a server where we will deploy our FileMaker containers. So, well, we have the backup volume and SSD volume for the database, and then we have our monitoring and backup agents which are running there. So, because we also outsource all the backups every night, so in another data center. So we keep data externally to ensure that if something goes wrong with the data center, we still have the data. And then all the containers which are running inside the Docker environment. So here is the slide from our partner Hofer, because we are able to deploy server for you and give you access to a set of tools that helps you manage and just deploy your server by yourself. So
I should maybe introduce the partnership thing before we go to the detail. So what we saw earlier, you know, at the top of the stack, you have these instances that are, from the user perspective, is their FileMaker server instance, right? So of course we do. If you go to our website, you can deploy a server, a free trial, and then it converts to paid offer. But that's the direct. So we have many customers like that, of course, and we also have partners. And partners, we have different partnership programs, but the two most important, the one we are going to describe here is IIS, which in fact we work as a white label here. So some hosting companies or some consultants who have many customers for whom they manage the hosting, instead of sending their customers to us because they want to keep the relationship, they speak their language, they're and they can also make profit out of the hosting. So instead of sending the customers to us or reselling each instance, they become partner and they rent a full host, like full machine, and they gain access to our APIs and to also a console and so on. So this is what we are going to describe here. So basically, in that type of scenario, we don't appear nowhere. I mean, there are several now, established hosting companies that have switched their hosting to our architecture, and you don't know. But for some, I can disclose the name. For some, they don't want to, which is fine. And we are, it's completely transparent because our architecture, for the reasons you saw, is so efficient. So this is what we're going to describe now.
So yeah. So this program gives you also access to many things that you won't have access if you just take a public cloud instance. If you take a public cloud instance, you will have access to the admin console on the FileMaker server and to the FTP, so you can upload your files, download your backups, etc. But you can't access the OS level. You don't have an SSH access. With our partner program, we give you access to all of this. We give you access to our monitoring system, so you will have basically a dashboard and your alerts. You can have receive alerts on your phone or by mail or any kind of channel you would like. And you will also have access to SSH to any any of your containers. So if you want to run something specific, or even to install something specific on a container, you can do it. And we give you access to an API which will allow you to manage your server, so see all your eventually all your hosts available, and to spin up your containers, your FileMaker instance. And of course, you also have a dedicated backup storage, so we can send the backups where you want. Here is a small example of our monitoring system. So, well, lots of information here, but the most interesting thing is that you can see all the memory and disk space usage, so you know what's the resource available on your server. But we also scrap here all the data coming from FileMaker. So all the logs, the event log, the access log, but also the stats log. So if you know how to read, for instance, the well, what a call or an elapsed time or things like that, you have a dashboard and you can see exactly what's going on the server. Rather, how many customers is connected to the server. So that's pretty easy tool to use. And so with this access, you can see there's 15 days of logs which can be viewed here. So you can, for any server, say, okay, at this exact time, what was happening. Well, demo is the console.
Yeah, first.
Yes. It's okay. Yes. Actually, there's we can install auto on the servers. We have an automatic deployment of auto. Yeah. Okay. So of course we can install auto, but yes, with the SSH access, you can run data migration on your side. We have some customers which are not using auto, but they just have system script that they put in the script folder of FileMaker server, and they run their migration just from a schedule, FileMaker schedule. So yes, it's possible.
Yeah, so this is a Geek Mac. I can't find the browser, but
The browser is Brave.
oh, you're using Brave. So first, the main, I mean, we don't want to spend time on that, but the main thing to deploy a server, the easiest way, if you just want to try out, is to go to our website and talk to the chatbot. So this, in less than 1 minute, you just ask for, I'm not going to go through all this, but with FileMaker hosting, you ask about FileMaker hosting, and literally in less than a minute, you have your own instance. So this is the easiest way to try. But what we want to show you today is the partner console. So this is a FileMaker file. It's as we just explained, our partners, they gain access to our APIs. But APIs can be, you have to integrate them. So we also provide a very, very simple FileMaker file, which is open, by the way. So if you want to, plug it to your own solution, it's very easy. And it allows people like me to deploy server, upgrade them, configure them without understanding any shit of what was said just before. So if I'm a partner, I just have to key in my API key that is provided by when I become a partner, and then I can manage my host. Look, hosts again are those physical machines, right? A typical host have a 6-second support up to 16 FileMaker server instances, FileMaker Dockers, right? We have larger hosts and also smaller, but this is the best compromise in terms of cost. And so, if I select this that we just spun up for the demo, I can see. Well, this is the about the host here, so I can see the status, and I can I have here deployed one server or two, and the second was removed. Yes, so I deployed a second one, and this one was removed. I can just go. I have some shortcuts to go to the admin console directly to initiate the SSH communication, settings, update, delete. Okay, so if I go to settings, for instance, I can see here, I can set the version. I can change the RAM storage. I can change the subdomain, or we also manage the custom SSL. If you, all this is free. It's all included. So of course here we have our own domain by default, but when you're a partner, it's your domain, of course, and so on. Well, and we can change even the admin console credentials. You can enable PHP and auto. I don't think the screen you can really see it, but you have to believe me. That's what's on screen. Okay, so let's say this particular customer, I would like to give him more RAM. What I have to do is change that and click update, and that's all I need to do, and that's it. The update is just started. Now I see the status is updating. Oh yeah, we can't close the window anymore now. But yeah, we can. By doing what? Cancel.
Just to rename the
Yeah, that's
it's
not
updating.
okay, so now it's updating. The status is blue here, and very very shortly it will become a red, green again. If it's red, and it's not more complex to deploy a new one. That's all I have to do. Give a name to the server, configuration, and deploy, and that's it. No, because one of the advantages of Docker that we did not mention is that these are dynamically allocated resources. So all clients will benefit from the hardware. We can have a limit.
There's
Yeah,
a,
we can
there's a
dedicate.
limit. We set a limit. Well, not with the partners. We can set if you want, but we basically say, okay, there's a minimum, maximum. But we used to not set too much limit because there's a minimum is important, but the maximum is not important. Just voilà, we use the resources which are available, and when you see the monitoring, you can see that FileMaker is not using the resource at all. So the CPU, the only bottleneck with FileMaker is the RAM usage.
No, we have
We installed PHP. Yeah, but it's well, it's not really available now. They re-enable the custom web publishing, but they don't install PHP.
no. That's the different thing. On our hosting, we also provide PHP hosting, so we can install PHP files on the same server, and we install PHP for you. And of course, no, it's not the PHP API, but the custom web publishing can be enabled. It's a different thing. We also have some other features such as PHP hosting, or being able to export directly from your FileMaker app to your HTTP doc folder, so you can do very nice stuff. But these are like side features.
Well, Node.js is already installed by FileMaker because it's what is used for the data API. So you can just
So I can
you
my
can
own application of the
yeah
same server in the same.
yeah it can run inside, yes. The only thing is well, with Docker there's no firewall, but you just when you spin up your container, you set the ports which will be available. So if your app is running with another port, then you will have to change. But what I used to do in such case is that I just change the Nginx config and make it act as a proxy. So just access from the standard HTTPS port with a specific address, and it will go to your Node app.
We're running out of time, really. We already 3 minutes late. I'm just seeing. No one is going to fetch us, so we could. No,
It's one container per client. It's still one server per client, but it's on the same host. So it's just running. It's not shared hosting as what we used to do long time ago. Yeah, they all have their own FileMaker server with a license, with their admin console. It's not the same server. It's just the same installation, yes, but it's not using each process which is running is not using the license. They have their own space with their license.
And our settings, of course, and
settings
schedules and so
yeah.
on. So. Okay, we will be available at our booth, of course, and everywhere where there's something good to eat. So